You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 371, Cornered. We are plugging away here on the fourth episode of the Bad Batch series, and tonight, Jonesy and I are going to break this down to the nth degree, leave no stone unturned, and talk a lot about Fennec Shand here in just a little bit. But let me bring them on. Jonesy, hey, welcome to the show.
Good evening, man. Good to be here. It has been a soggy week out here. I tell you what.
Yeah,
just same thing. Rain, more rain. I mean, I love it, but man, it is soggy. I'm kind of ready for it to stop raining, but it can still be cloudy and not hot or humid.
Yes. Yeah, there's people in Seattle and London just shaking their fists at us right now.
I know, right?
But no, I'm with you.
No, good week, man.
It's been bad.
Yeah, good week, and man, another great episode. So this is we're on a roll here.
Quite the
talk about this one.
Yeah, quite the experience. I mean, and let's get into that here in a little bit because I do want to talk about 4 episodes in. We're at a quarter of the way through of 16 episodes, and I know there was a lot of discussion, feedback about whether or not this was filler and all that. So we're gonna dig into that here in just a little bit. But before we go any further, I did want to say one thing, and that is, I'm sorry. So in 2 of the episodes already, I've made the mistake of referring to a gender as it, and that's not appropriate. So not cool. It wasn't intentional by any means, but nonetheless, I did it. So I'm saying I'm sorry. That's really hard for me to get. I mean, everything is hard to change, right? And when you're programmed, if you will, growing up that way and using that just very nonchalantly, it's very difficult to change. And so I'm not making excuses. All I'm saying is I do consciously try to stop doing that and saying it and trying to use proper nouns. And I struggle with it. I still have faults and I still make mistakes. And so for that reason, I just want to say I'm sorry. It really wasn't intentional. And I'm doing my best to not do that. So, and I think it's important, right? I mean, we all have to change. Change happens one person at a time. It's not incumbent on everybody to suddenly flip a switch. But as long as we're trying, we're doing our best. I think that's all we can ask of each other. So to anybody that I may have offended for that, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. And me as well. And what I like about our listeners, Albert, is that when people reach out to us, they actually approach it and want to talk to us about it rather than jumping on us and making a big deal about, hey, let's all do better, and then that's what it's all about is, what can we do? What do we see in ourselves and behaviors that we have? And let's do something a little bit different so we can hopefully make a difference later on as well. So
yes,
absolutely. Yeah. Very well spoken.
Yeah. And again, you made a good point. Like the way the feedback came to us was perfect. So thank you. It could have been much worse, right? We've seen that happen. Yeah. All right, let's get into Star Wars. A lot
of news, man. Yeah, with a lot of news accumulating on us here.
And yeah, I'm like, I don't know why we didn't talk about this. Maybe because it wasn't a big thing. I don't have a really good reason, but Star Wars Celebration.
Anniversary stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We had the 10th anniversary.
We were nervous about Mike being on air. We weren't sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, it was that the unknown factor of Rondo coming back onto the show and talking to Last Jedi. No, I'm kidding. But so Celebration changed. It went from, May 26th, August 18th to 21st. Yep. Now it's back in May. That moved up a lot of people. And I know, like, some people already had stuff scheduled and they already planned it. And did you ever hear the official release says it was to provide the best experience, but usually there's other factors that kind of play into that. Did that ever get, and you're closer to this than I am, but did it ever get uncovered or disclosed as to why?
I haven't looked at it too terribly hard. Usually these things are due to some sort of conflict, though, either a scheduling conflict or there's other things going on in the area. Those are typically it, especially, but them to move it on, as I believe that's Memorial Day weekend next year.
Oh, really?
So yeah, for them to move on to a holiday weekend is interesting. So it's we've got a whole year in advance, right? And then this week, of course, they went and announced the hotel blocks are going up. They're going to open those up as well, starting June 1st for the VIP ticket, for the Jedi Master VIP. My apologies. Right. So of course, I'm like, well, I'm still looking to get tickets. I mean, I've got some, but I need to look at others. And I'm like, but they're selling hotel blocks, but we don't have tickets being released again yet because they're still going through the refund process. So it's still, this is the normal chaos we get with Celebration, but it's exciting that we've actually got a firm date now. We can start making plans. we've already started making plans to try to figure out how we're going to get out there and where we're going to stay and things like that. And a whole year in advance is tough because not everybody wants to give you that kind of availability. But but it's good that it's coming together a bit, and that the website is actually updated now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had some folks reach out and ask whether or not we're going to do podcast stage this year. It is. It's one of those things where you can go in and say, yeah, we want to do it, but it really depends on what Disney's looking for. So again, we were fortunate 2 years ago to do it. I don't know if we're going to submit. Jonesy and I honestly haven't spoken about it yet. I don't think either way. If we do and we don't get in, or we choose not to submit an application, we definitely want to do some kind of a get together, right? And we did that 2 years ago. We had some kind of offsite after hour type things, get togethers with some of our supporters and listeners. So either way, I would say you can expect at least at a minimum that. So look for more details as we get closer.
Right. And you'll definitely hear from us while we're there. I mean, we won't be able to keep our mouth shut on whatever we're doing, because the interesting thing is, a year from now, we're going to be right in the throes again of a bunch of things, having been past them, like with Bad Batch, but also coming into the end of next year where we're going to get more on Book of Boba and this next season of Mando, everything else that's going on. So it's going to be a really exciting celebration. So the timing has really worked out pretty well. August would have been just fine as well, but the timing of when this is moved from this year to next is going to work out, I think, better than what we had originally anticipated anyway. Because we weren't really sure what they were going to talk about this year. And,
right. We had no idea.
Right. And so now,
kind of in status.
And now they'll give them another year to have things further in development, because we'll have Kenobi in development by then. So you can start listing off a chunk of things that they'll have either in development or pre-production, and being able to bring guests out and be able to talk about some of this stuff. So I think it's going to be a good time. I think it's going to be a great celebration, and not the letdown that I think some people were anticipating this year's might have been.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good on them to at least bring it back as soon as they could. And hopefully we'll see everybody there. All right. Something else that came up, the Wave 2 of the High Republic. So those titles, the ARC, so the advanced reader copies are out now. We've gotten ours, and without spoiling anything, I was going to go through all this, but we've got a lot of show to talk about. We've got Rising Storm, which is by Kevin Scott, coming out June 29th. We've got Race to Crash Point Tower by Daniel Jose Older, coming out June 29th, same day. And then July 27th, that seems like forever, but it's really not. That's when Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland comes out. Now, I am about 3/4 of the way through Rising Storm, and we can't talk about it. I've been posting a little teaser nugget things that are really non-spoiler out in Discord last week. I spent a lot of time on a plane this past week, and got a chance to dig into it, and I can't put it down. Like, that's all I've been thinking about. And there's so, like, all I can say right now without going into review time is there's so many moments where I'm like, wait, what? And then I had to go back and read it because I couldn't believe what I had just read. And now I'm probably more vested in the story and the characters than most people. This is kind of my jam right now, but I think it's, what I mentioned in social media was I think people are going to be pretty surprised with Rising Storm, and just how bold it can be at times. Let's just leave it at that. So that's exciting. I mean, we want the books to be something unique and special, and many of us have viewed them as that way for a long time. But now that they actually have that gravitas to them, and the importance of them, and that they're actually willing to step out there and take some more chances with them, I think is a lot of fun and really interesting. And I was shocked that we got these so far in advance. Like you said, upwards of a couple of months in advance is really. I was curious why that was the case, but we are in embargo, but until the May 26th. And even then, they've asked us to keep reviews rather spoiler-free for a bit. I think some of that is because of the long lead time. So we will touch base on these books, and we'll bring them over to you, and we're going to do them in a bit of a spoiler-free fashion, I believe is what we've kind of agreed to up front. And as we get closer to the actual release, we'll revisit them in a bit more of those details that we need to really dig into. And apparently there's some big moments in this one already. So yeah, there've been some pretty big moments. Some, again, truly shocking moments for me. But yeah, 26. So in 3 days, at least as of this recording, we can at least do a spoiler free. And then we can't do the embargo on anything spoilerish. Has to be the day of. So you won't hear from us again on this until then. So
man, have we done anything spoiler free in a while? We're out of practice.
Spoiler free? No,
man, we're in trouble.
We're going to screw it all up.
Disney's going to hate us.
Yeah. Well, we'll never get another story for them, because I'm pretty sure we're going to screw this up. Okay. Well, more to come in just a few days, or at least next week sometime. on that, and then certainly over the next couple of weeks, months, or whatever, you'll get more on the story itself. So,
right.
But with that, so if you watch the 10th anniversary show that we did, by the way, that was just so much fun. Really had a good time. And if you were a Patreon member, you got the after show that Mike said nobody cared about, and everyone loved it. So you're welcome, Mike. But yeah, we kind of teased at the very end of that we were kind of making some changes to Patreon and some of the content. For those of you who've not listened to the show, go do so. But if you're not going to, that's fine too. What we did tease out was that we were making some changes to Patreon. And Jonesy, I guess you want to maybe just kind of touch on some of the highlights there. I know we've done one thing already, so we've checked the box. We did the after show for the Patreon users, right, but we got more stuff coming.
Yeah, and you'll have to keep me honest on this stuff because I just woke up like an hour ago. Sorry. Don't even ask. Yeah, so we were going to do some more of the comic type of books. We've talked about that before. We don't really do them as often in the main show, so we thought we'd bring some of that into the Patreon to dig into those stories. And the cool thing about those is they're very intertwined with one another. And right now we've got two of the more main comic books, but there's others that will weave in and out of those and use some of that as some of the content there. We'll also, what was the idea that you had earlier today you were talking about? Yeah,
so we've got like the all the from a certain point of view stories. Jonesy and I haven't had a chance to kind of sit down and talk about those, and we know that. I mean, they're in the backlog of, hey, let's get to those at some point. But we've got the Tales of from the Dark Side one. We've got the stories of Light and Dark. I mean, there's a ton of stories in there. We thought about covering those as also Patreon stuff, so you can see that coming. We'll have that come into you as well at some point. And if we didn't touch on it hard enough, we're going to start doing now is we're going to go through our normal show notes like we always do, with one exception. We are every episode, at least of the Bad Batch, we are consciously thinking about what do we want to pull out of here and dig into a little bit deeper, right? More than we do in a normal show. And so tonight's going to be the first night of that. And just because we're on the topic, we're actually going to dig into Fennec Shand a little bit more. So again, we're not going to skip over anything per se. We're going to go through it just like we normally would. But there are some questions around Fennec Shand that I think are kind of natural to ask. And if you haven't been thinking about them, then we have, and we're going to share those with you and kind of give our thoughts on, some of the other speculation and theories and stuff like that we had come up with around her. So that'll be a Patreon exclusive for anybody that's a Patreon member at the $2 or more level.
Right.
And the way we kind of see this is the $1 thing is, hey, you're just supporting the show, keeping the lights on, $1 a month is just that, right? It's just full support. That the $2 is where you start getting the additional content. And I know this sounds really weird, and trust me, we were looking at the expenses today, but we really do need some kind of a income coming in just to pay for this and pay for the hosting and all the stuff that we're doing with advertising now. It does add up, and I can't say thank you enough to everybody that supports us each month, however many of you now that are out there. It certainly goes a long way. So although it's a necessary evil, it's necessary, and we're at least trying to make it worth your while for doing so.
Yeah,
Anything
exactly.
you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, it's a big thank you to the folks who do support us and who have done so for so long, and just to be able to give something back and to do more of it. And we're embarrassed by how little we've done. As there's been so many changes with the show and so many things have come up over the last couple of years in particular. And so we're kind of re-energized to get into some of that. And like Albert said, we're not limiting content that we're going to have on the normal stream or on the normal podcast. It'll all be there. We're just going to find different things to dig into and different moments within like the Bad Batch in particular for the next several weeks probably. But so we just want you guys to be able to tune in and get some of that extra content. And then of course you got your own channel over in Discord. You can come talk to us over there. And of course, tell everyone that's maybe missing it that they might enjoy it, would want to come and join Patreon with us too. And again, we do a $1, $2, and a $5 tier, so it's still pretty basic, and it's just a little change to help the show kind of keep going and growing. And we appreciate everyone that's done so much for us already, and it's not something we take lightly. So we're happy and excited to be able to bring more of it to you.
But for $50 a month, Jonesy will come out to your house personally and wash your car. So we're just throwing that out there.
Probably dance while I do it too. I have no shame.
Okay. All right. And with that, nice segue into
Right.
our main show, which is Cornered. I'm feeling a bit cornered right now. All right, let's talk about this episode. And I guess, Jonesy, give me your kind of initial thoughts overall. I know you kind of said earlier that pretty good episode, but what'd you like about it?
Actually, yeah, the more I watched it a few more times after kind of our initial talk about it, and I got to like this episode more and more. And I was talking with Dragon the Abyss and Formalis from Discord, because they're friends of mine. And John made a really great point that this is a really great, strong female character that we got with Fennec. Really got to show off her talents and her abilities and her cunning and a variety of things with her. And we'll talk about some tonight and a little bit later on tonight. And so the more I thought about that, she's really well written character for this show, and I think in general the show was really well written. And we thought there were maybe some plot points that were there were some gaps through along the way, but the more I saw them, I think they were fine. I don't think there were really any, the fuel thing and all of that. But overall, another really good episode. And the more I watched it, actually, the more I enjoyed it. And there were a couple head scratching moments, like there always are going to be. But man, action packed, great pacing, the timing. Like, again, they're just kind of hitting all the marks on the head. And I like that we continue to revisit places that we've been before. And you just have to have been around for the ride to get the reference. And so, and they start right off with Pantora, right? So, but no, overall, again, 4 episodes in and we're still going strong. And I hadn't really heard anybody call this filler, but I would have to argue very hard against the filler comment. And I think some of it also is one of those times of you have to wait a bit to see if it really is filler or not. It might be. Yeah. But what about you? What were your initial impressions?
Yeah, I would say I'll just tackle the filler piece because I've heard that a few times. And I don't know, we've said this before with Filoni in The Mandalorian. And I think retrospectively now, looking back at season 2, where we were at the very end, again, you say it's hard to make an argument that there was filler in those episodes. Was there certain things that didn't have to happen? Yeah, but these aren't, 1 hour, 2 hour shows where you're like, whoa, they could have cut all this out.
Right.
These are 22-minute episodes. So come on, perspective, right? I mean, there are certain things that happen. Did this episode move the whole storyline forward in huge momentum ways? No, probably not. But at the same time, there were things that happened, which we're going to get into here, that I felt like were character building moments. They certainly reinforced some of the things that we were thinking or theorizing about. They did allow the characters to grow a little bit more and for us to get to know somebody like Fennec Shand, where she's coming from. She seems much more complex, at least to me, than I initially gave her credit for from what we saw in The Mandalorian. And which is good because I think it changes our perspective on The Mandalorian. So you got to think about it in that perspective as well. Some of the stuff that we're seeing today in this show particularly may have some impacts in how we perceive characters or plots or threads or whatever that are happening in other shows that are related by or created by Dave Filoni. And so I would say that the one thing that we've always said about Dave Filoni going all the way back to the Clone Wars is you just kind of have to wait and see. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not apparent. Sometimes it may not even be apparent in season 1 or in this particular season, right? It could flourish a little bit later. He plants these seeds. And for, I think, those that are just kind of tuning in for the first time, yeah, maybe it does feel like it's filler. And you're probably not wrong in thinking that because there's so many other shows that will do that to you. And they've gotten really good on sniffing this stuff out, right? So I guess it's to be determined. It didn't feel like filler to me. This one, I think, had all the makings of a good episode, and I enjoyed it. There were some great moments in it, particularly Fennec Shand. Like I said, she was kind of the standout character and standout moment for me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, the story itself isn't unique. I mean, we've already said this about some of the other ones. I mean, it's a pretty trope episode, and it's kind of what you would expect. We're running low on fuel and supplies. We need to make a stop, and someone busts them, right? And so it's not really all that unique. But I mean, again, do you do it well? I mean, you can take things that you've done and make them visually appealing and if you have the characters which you're invested in, which I think we definitely are with the Bad Batch, and we're getting more so with Omega, and to bring in a character like Fennec, I think just adds to it that now we get to see what she was like the better part of 30 years before we see her in Mandalorian, right? So very, how different is she? What was she like when she was presumably in her 20s, rather than, I'm guessing Ming-Na Wen is in her 50s or something like that.
Yeah, she's in her 50s at this one.
Gosh, she looks so amazing for that age. But I mean, for that age, that sounds horrible. You and I are getting closer, but
hey, I'm not that far away. But
right, you're a stone's throw. Yeah, a day closer to death. But yeah, it was just really cool though. So you can still take the normal things and kind of the tried and true and not make them feel like they're just regurgitated, and still make it rather entertaining. And there were a couple moments in this which were, again, just classic humor that were perfect, just absolutely perfect.
Okay, so we open once again on the Havoc Marauder, and like thankfully it's not smoking or electricity popping
drifting
there.
Through
Yeah, and he mentions that they're trying to get to, what is it, Idaflor, which I'm assuming that's where Rex is. My gut tells me that's probably where we're going to land now. I think they've done a pretty good job of like placing little clues about what the next episode is going to be, or have some kind of context. And so my guess is we're going to Idaflor, wherever that is, soon. But for here, they said, well, we're going to have to land, or we're going to have to go to Pantora because they need to make some changes. They got to get rid of the tracker that was kind of their signature ID was being broadcast, right? It was all very tropes again that you kind of mentioned here. But it was interesting that they, who was it? Was it Hunter that said, "Hey, we need to hide," right? Yeah. Like that was that's where they kind of landed on is we can't be out there, we can't be running around, we need to hide. And Omega, right, is like taken back by this. She's like, because she's been landlocked for her whole life. I mean, all of whatever 8 to 10 years that she is. She's been landlocked this whole time. And then suddenly these guys get out there and she's starting to see all this wonderful universe galaxy that's out there. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to go somewhere far away where no one is around, no social interaction once again, and just bunker up and really hide. And that's not the life that she wants to live. But I mean, to her defense, I mean, she's a kid, right? I mean, she's not thinking in those perspectives. She's thinking I want to be out there. I want to see the world that I've never gotten to see. And that's just not really the right time, at least in their mind right now.
Right. And Idaflor is completely uninhabited. There's no one there. There's no civilization, nothing like that.
So they think.
Well, so they think, yeah. Well, that's but that's the plan. That's the reason why they're going after it, to your point. And yeah, she wants to explore. She wants to see the galaxy. She's disappointed of sorts. She thought this was going to be some great adventure. And it's just kind of that naivete where she doesn't understand just how much hot water that they're in. And I don't even think they quite understand everything that they've got gunning towards them in a certain way. And so but it's just that youthful enthusiasm. And then as soon as they decide to change it, just her eyes just light up, which was just a perfect kind of golden moment when I think Jeff was saying in the chat, this episode should have just been called Pantora It Is, because that was just one of those, classic moments where you just get to see the light in the kid's eyes. But yeah, I was excited we got to see Pantora. And what's interesting about Pantora is we first saw Pantora show up in the Clone Wars, right? It was mentioned, I think, in season 1. We actually got to see it in season 3, right? And they spent a few episodes.
I didn't remember that. I remember the name, but I didn't recall that we had seen it. So
yeah, and we see we see the kind of the blue skinned humanoids that were on the bikes. That's kind of them. I forgot it was a woman, like a chancellor or something like that. I think the episode was around, and Ahsoka was sent out there. If I told you the episode and described it to you, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I remember that one. But yeah, so what's interesting though is that Pantora is actually a moon, but they keep calling it a planet, and they did this in the Clone Wars too.
Yeah, they did.
And Tech. Now I'm like, Tech, man, did I put my faith in the right person here to telling me all the truth of how things are pronounced and everything else? Because yeah, he called it a planet as well. And now, granted, when you got a huge civilization and stuff on it, it's probably pretty fair that this feels more like a planet than a moon, because it looks pretty sustaining, right? But anyway, it's just one of those weird fun facts, continuity type of things, and just what do people call it? No value in this conversation I just gave you, but you now feel that much more educated. So
since we're already in the weeds and talking about things that are really not significant, I thought I'd just throw in there that there have been a number of these that they've done that too, and it feels like they've gone and retconned them and said, oh, well, it's true. You can have a system that's called, quote, Pantora, and a moon that's called Pantora, or a planet called Pantora, and the system is called Pantora. You know what I'm saying? So it almost like they're interchangeable at times, and they'll go back and default it to, oh, well, that's because it's also this, it's called that, whatever. But anyway, okay.
And this was so weird because it's the Pantoran system, I believe. But Pantora is a moon of, was it Orto Plutonia is the planet? So why is the system named after a moon, or is the moon named after the, anyway, so Star Wars.
It's named after a character by the name of Pantora.
Oh, okay. Not to be confused with Pandora.
No, it's not. No, yeah, it's not. Okay. I have no idea. All right. All right. We've just lost a ton of people. Okay, so let's get into, no, we have not. Yeah, so I'm glad they addressed this because, I mean, I get it. It's as I've been watching these episodes, we're 4 episodes in, and you've got Hunter still running around with a very distinctive headband with a skull on it, right? And if I'm the Empire and I'm looking for them, yeah, I'm going to put out these feelers that say, look, this is what they look like, and these guys never change. And it was finally, he finally did he donned that like green jacket thing he's got on, but he still got the headband, which again, I mean, but if he would just take that off, I think we all know that's still Hunter, right? I mean, he's got the longer hair. He doesn't look like any of the other clones. They all look pretty distinctively different, in my opinion. But at least Echo changed his appearance and owned that whole kind of droid look or whatever. But I hope they do that more. I hope they start changing up their looks. And the only reason why, selfishly, is because that's what the A-Team would do, right? They would get in these different costumes every episode, and it was always exciting to see how they were going to dress up and who was who. But I wish they would just take that approach more, because I mean they've already pushed all the A-Team buttons on this series, as it were. So we talked about them needing food and rations. They kind of hinted at that. That was a little seed they plugged in there, and sure enough, they mentioned it once again here that, hey, we need food. And so that's kind of what is driving them as well, is they've got to go use whatever money they have to go buy stuff. And I think for us, and we've talked about this before on other episodes, I think we did it during the Clone Wars. I think when we talked about the Bad Batch in season 7, and just this whole, what's life like after a soldier leaves, right? And it's kind of art imitating reality here in a lot of ways. But I think we're starting to see it in this episode for sure. We're seeing the Bad Batch having to struggle with not having everything provided for them by a government or by the military, if you will. So they're having to figure out ways of bargaining, negotiating, right? We get into the hangar and that horrible negotiation skills that they use there. But, this idea that, no one's provided us meals. We're not just going down to the mess hall like we saw a couple episodes ago, and they're feeding us. We've got to go figure this out now, right? On top of that, they've got a kid now they got to take care of. And so we're starting to see little bits and pieces of that, which I think is kind of cool, because it does ground them in a little bit of reality here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're out of food, right? They're not like running low anymore. They're completely out. But yeah, it just shows you one of those things where they used to be able to stop at any place and get fuel and supplies and food and whatever it might be. And, they were welcomed, right? And now they're not, now, especially when they learn that their ship has been identified, right? And has been broadcast out, like you were saying earlier, that complicates things, because before they were under the impression they could just kind of show up and go wherever they need to be, and they would be okay. And they would at least have some amount of anonymity. But now, as soon as you come into orbit or as soon as you land, it sounds like the normal process is to basically process your ship and make sure it's checked in and everything else. And we hear that a little bit later on. Times are changing more quickly than they anticipated as well. But it's I mean, this is the new reality for them, and they're trying to sort their way through it. And you're right, the Tech's discomfort with the bribe, and then Wrecker's response to it was just classic. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, they've got to find a new way of doing it. But damn it, Hunter's going to hang on to that headband. Yeah,
he's not dropping it.
Nope.
And this kind of plays into kind of what Saul Guerrero said too. I think he was obviously speaking in different terms.
Right.
His was a lot more serious. But I mean, it is, it's a ripple effect there. I think even the smallest things like this. And the comment that he made was, and I forget the exact quote, but about how you just got to adapt, right? You've got to change, you've got to adapt. And we're seeing them kind of go through this in the room in very small ways, and I would imagine in very large ways. Some that we've already seen, certainly with bringing on Omega. But then I think later on in these episodes, we're going to see them struggle with bigger, sweeping changes that are coming across the galaxy.
Right.
So Pandora or Pantora, it is what they say. Jeff had mentioned in the chat that they could have just named it that as well, which I thought would have been cool. And so, yeah, they land on Pantora. And again, we get to see Omega, this is completely different, right? She's seen like the greenery and all that there is there. She's seen a moon, a desolate moon. And boy, she sees this really big, hustling, bustling city for the first time. And you can just see it in her eyes again, she's just in awe, enamored by the fact that looks nothing like Camino whatsoever. We had Dave Filoni and his Lothcats, right? They're always in there somewhere. They kind of make an appearance here. And then we get into this whole scene where they're kind of cheering on the clones. And it's very Galactic Empire-ish, right? They're cheering because the war is over. I think it's Omega that asks, why are they cheering? Or someone asks, yeah, I think it's Omega that asks, hey, why are they cheering? He's like, yeah, it's because the war is over. But it is very, it's very cold in terms of the celebration. You know, it's not like, we all know that they shouldn't be cheering and that things really aren't going to go well. But, you know, this is arguably what, weeks, couple months, maybe after all of this has happened. And so, yeah, I mean, everything looks pretty good right now. We're in the honeymoon phase of the Galactic Empire, and you know, that's going to really come to a crashing halt pretty soon if it's not already. I think we saw that in the last episode where they were, you know, people forcing people to provide chain codes and all that. The restrictions are starting to come, and they're going to come pretty heavy here very soon.
Yeah, what was interesting about the chain codes, I didn't catch this before, but in this episode, you can actually hear Rampart say it, is that for you, if you register for your chain code and you get one, they will change your current credits to Imperial credits at no extra charge. You know, one-to-one type of thing, and they'll switch it. All you have to do is sign up, basically. You know, all courtesy of your brand new empire, Galactic Empire. I'm sorry, they keep saying, but that was something I didn't catch before. And I think things like that are how you can see why people don't even think twice about it. Like, okay, well, the currency's changing. Sure, I got to go, you know, check in to do this type of thing, and they can excuse some of the things, not necessarily thinking that they're giving up any liberties as a result, right? Or you know, or whatever it might be. But yeah, I mean, back to your point with Omega, you know, she asks as a result, well, that's a good thing, right? The war is over. And Echo says that it depends on which side you're on. And it was really telling, because this is something like the Bad Batch didn't really choose to be on a different side necessarily. It kind of happened. It kind of happened to them, and without their real direct involvement. They were just trying to stop and slow down and figure out what was going on, rather than just blindly following, you know, orders or being told by some other group what to do. Right? They didn't really make a conscious decision just to bail on the new empire and say, well, no, it's an empire. That's not right. It was more the specific actions that we're taking. And so it was, that moment kind of landed on me when that scene happened, that they're, I don't want to say a victim, because they did make choices, right? But it did kind of happen to them, of sorts, of the situation that they're in is not really one that they intended to make in any kind of way.
Yeah, they, you know, this isn't what they signed up for. Literally, it's not. We saw that in the last episode with the elite troops. You know, things are changing again. Things are changing, and I think it's Hunter who even says it. He says the things are changing quicker than I thought.
Right.
And but no, it's a good point. Like, this is they're put in this position, but they didn't ask for it. Not technically. This is not what, technically they did, I should say. But this is, again, not what they signed up for. They're being forced in this position. They've been forced to make some very difficult decisions about where their alliances lie. You know, where does their relationships lie with their brotherhood? I mean, this is a lot that they're going through. And I don't think we're seeing a lot of that as much as we probably could. That's not feedback on the show, but if you think about it just emotionally, there's a lot going on here and weighing on these guys' minds as they're having to deal with all these things. I mean, they're just literally rolling with the punches at this point as things keep changing so drastically.
Right. I think this is something we might see, sorry to interrupt, where they have, we got to mention a Crosshair before, right? And we're like, oh, maybe we're going to start to learn. And Crosshair basically didn't come up at all this week. You know, so it's going to be one of these like things where you flip flop, you know, every other week, maybe we get one side of the story and then another part of the story kind of takes precedent, right? And so you have this give and take, which allows them to stretch the show, of course. And you could start to call that filler, but I think some of it's also giving the story opportunity to breathe a bit and take situation by situation rather than, oh, no, let's just have all the dialogue now and just give you all the answers now, right? And be able to give it a bit more organically, because some things do take priority over something else, right? And right now they can't do anything about Crosshair.
Right. What about the so we get another scene here. It cuts over quickly to Wrecker and Tech, and it's a funny moment because, you know, Tech's going on and on about the technical side of it, and Wrecker just cuts him off and is like, just tell me what I need to pull out. Yeah, what to rip out, right? That's all I need to know. And I when that scene was, and it's very quick, but I just think, of all the two people to couple together, like, that has to be the most frustrating for both of them. And they probably already know it. They acknowledge it. That's why we got the line that we did. But I mean, you talk about two characters that are polar opposites of personality and traits. It's those two guys right there. So I'm hoping we get more of that odd couple here later down the road.
Well, right. We even had it on the ship, right? When he was saying, oh, the tech was saying they just need to change the signature. And Wrecker's like, you can do that? Well, of course I can do that. I mean, so they've already got this, you know, he's already questioned him once or twice in this day, and now he gets to work with him. And yeah, the meathead aspect of it came through loud and clear this week for Wrecker. That poor guy. He's got a heart. He's got a heart the size of a coconut or a pineapple. There we go. Not a coconut.
There you go. Yeah, he's coming around too, which there was one moment here that we'll get to in a little bit, which I thought was great. So we get back over to the city market. And so this is where Hunter's got these explosives that he's trying to sell. And I think it was Tech or somebody was pushing back saying, hey, well, that's our last one. We shouldn't do this. And he's like, no, we're in basic survival mode at this point. We don't need to really use this as long as we stay on the run here. And that's part of hiding thing. Hiding takes it to a vendor, and the vendor's like, no, I mean, I'm not buying this thing. What are you trying to do here? This isn't like the black market. And again, it just speaks to their ignorance. Why wouldn't somebody at a market just buy these explosives that are like handed out by the military? He just doesn't know. He says it's a black market item. And again, he's trying to do a reputable business there. We get a moment there where Omega finds a stormtrooper doll, which, I mean, it was pretty clear. We've all seen this already because they made a big effort to point it out as probably as much in Rogue One. Different kind of doll. This, I think that was a stormtrooper. This was a clone trooper. Right. I guess this is just a thing there. I don't know if they've got these kind of everywhere or not, but
I guess so. I think you can buy them at Galaxy's Edge too.
Do they really?
It wouldn't surprise me. You'd figure
they need to. Oh, they've got to get on that if they're not already. And then that's when the vendor mistakes Echo for being a droid,
which was the intent. Yeah.
What's that?
That was the intent. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the getup. He had this shield that came over his face, and he did look like a droid. And he's only got half an arm with a screwdriver attached to it. So,
all right, yeah.
That was the idea.
He tells him, "Look, I'll give you $2,000. I don't want your explosives, but I'll give you $2,000 for that droid. That'd be kind of sweet to have." And there was this whole moment at that point where I thought it was really funny, where he's going back and forth, and he offers him what he tells him it's going to be $4,000. They finally negotiate on $3,000, and you can see like Echo's. I mean, at one point he says like, I'm worth more than 2,000 credits. So which I thought was funny because he's putting a price tag on himself, and I don't know I'd be curious as to what Echo really believed he was worth. It didn't sound like it was much more than 4,000. I guess everybody's got a price, but of course we said that you were going to be doing car washes for $50 a month. So yes, everybody has a price. Sure. But what do you think about that? Like it seemed like he was taking offense to it, but at the same time, like I felt bad for him. It's like, dude, he's a person. I mean, he technically is a reg, but I don't know. That's unfortunate that he's being mistaken as a droid because he's been through hell and back, right, to get there.
Right. Yeah, but again, I mean, it was a disguise, and he made a big deal about it early in the episode. So this is kind of one of those, well, this is what you wanted, right? So he made a big deal early in the episode that no one would recognize him and his mask and everything else, and he looks like a droid. I mean, it's easy to mistake him for one, and they called him a military prototype. It's why he's so advanced. But man, his reaction was absolute gold, and yeah, you do feel for him, but at the same time, man, you wouldn't have these humorous moments if you didn't have Echo, because he's like, I am not going for 2,000 credits. I am worth a lot more than this. And
yeah,
and even then, he's still really disappointed. And of course, when later on in the episode, he makes a reference to it too. Well, actually, when they haul him back, though, it was like a total 3PO moment too, because he's like kind of sideways, like trying to look back at Hunter, like he's going to miss him, and he's being pulled, So it was just great visuals again, and visual callbacks to some of the things we're more familiar with. They're always fun. Yeah. But now this was one of those scenes that was fantastic. I think also another one that was a really good, real quick moment, and again, Hunter and kind of dad mode, right, is when he's when he's talking with the vendor and Omega's picking up the doll. He has one of those moments where he turns around and glances to check on her, right, to make sure she was there. And of course, she gets into a little bit of trouble. But it was just one of those moments that are really subtle, but they're totally. I mean, how many times have you done this in a store while you're checking out and you're looking around like, okay, do I know exactly where my kid is at? Okay, yeah, there they are, right there, right. So
they're elusive. Oh yeah,
yeah. But it was just one of those perfectly timed moments and perfectly animated moments where it just fits, and it was again small, but adds a lot to the context of what's going on the screen.
Yep, and in that moment, so Omega gets distracted by the Vorpax, which is Buggles, Mr. Buggles, or Buggles from Resistance. Tora had one of those as well, so it was cool that we got to see them in this kind of style, animated in this way. I always call them cats. They're not cats, and they look nothing like cats. I mean, there are loaf cats out there, but either way, she sees it and gets distracted, and that's all it takes. Like I'm telling you, man, kids, they You turn around and 1 minute they're gone. Next thing you know, you're freaking out. And that's exactly what happens here. He has a total freak out moment, which I can completely sympathize with. Right. But yeah, and that's when she runs into Fennec, and Fennec sees that she's all on her own. So she ends up going after her.
But we missed a part. We missed a part.
Did
We didn't have where the, I don't know what we can call him, the guy who was going to scan the ship and got bribed. He called Fennec. So I think we jumped over that part. So he actually called her and said that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Knew that she was looking for a heavily modified or what was it called? Heavily modified attack shuttle or something like that. I can't remember the exact words that he used.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
And so she's like, all right, I'm on my way. Of course, he wants to be paid because he's all about getting paid, and to keep them from leaving. So that's how Fennec kind of gets into the show, or into the fold here, about where to go and how she found them. And then yes, now we see her in the plaza as Omega runs by her as she's chasing after the Vorgel, which is, I guess, more like a dog because it yipped and yapped.
Yeah, they are. They're more like pugs, is what they are, like.
Right there,
galactic pugs or something.
Yeah, and so and of course they just grab the doll and shake it, right? So it's
yep. But yeah, and then this is where the Omega kind of runs into Fennec, and Fennec comes across as very like helpful, which I thought was interesting. I think one of the questions that I want to tackle a little bit later, and we don't need to do this now, but one of the questions I do want to tackle is, why didn't she just take her? I mean, there was, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been a forceful take. I've got a theory as to why that was. But yeah, nonetheless, she's like really, helpful, and she seems friendly and all of that. And of course, that appeals to Omega because in her mind, everybody is nice and there's nothing to worry about, right? So why should she kind of feel threatened by this person?
Yeah,
we cut over to, yeah, right. We cut over to Echo. And this is where Echo is in there with the rest of the droids. At this point, he's getting shoved back there. The owner is like, hey, you're now in charge of these droids. Get them to start working. And he's got, the 3PO unit, which I think that was CC-67, if I remember from the credits or whatever. But that 3PO, that protocol droid, was really upset because now someone's coming in and now acting like they're the boss. And she's like, no, I'm the boss. And then he takes his hat off, or his helmet off. And, the big reveal that he's human. And she like flips out saying, what in the world's going on here? She's going to report him, and he makes that threat about, I'll take your complaint, right?
With a blaster.
But, yeah, but I think the big one that everybody is still talking about is Clink, the little droid with the 2 arms and legs. And I know, again, we had one on Resistance, and I forget that one's name. He was more in season 2, I think, than 1. But again, it's just Dave Filoni kind of bringing that character back. But I mean, those things are so cute. Like, I wish we had more of those. Just the way they wobble, and they're kind of little pudgy looking droids.
Well, actually, that was one of my favorite quotes of the episode, was when they were gearing up later on. Gear up, fellas. We're going into the field. It was just fantastic. I loved it.
You're talking about when Echo tells them that, right?
Right, yeah. When they need help preparing the ship, right?
Yeah. It's rallying the troops, and this guy walks like about a half a mile an hour. So good luck with that. Okay, so we cut back over into the market, and now this is where Hunter realizes that he's lost Omega, and he's like flipping out. He sees the clone trooper doll on the floor, so that's kind of his clue that she went that way. And then we get into this whole moment with Omega and Fennec, and Omega's talking to her, talking to each other, and she mentions that they don't have any credits. We get that scene where Fennec steals the fruit in front of Omega, and you can see her eyes, and she's kind of shocked and surprised. There's the blaster moment. We're going to talk all about that a little bit later. But then Omega sees that. At that point, she says that when she realizes, that they didn't pay for the food. She says, we didn't buy these. And I thought of like Aladdin, because they were, the whole stealing stuff and all that. But she makes that comment about it's okay to break the rules sometimes. And I got to wonder how impressionable Omega is in hearing that as a kid. And is that going to play out a little bit later?
Well, and I was questioning the strategy a little bit of that too, of, why not give money to the person and buy something from them? Because again, it was something of trust, like, oh, this person has credits too, right? And they could have had a part of that, but it was interesting that she went that route instead. But again, it was still kind of this bonding moment where Omega's like, well, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. I mean, she ate it without a problem, or maybe she did have a problem with it, but she did eat it.
Did she actually eat it? I don't know if she had time, because they ran into Hunter pretty soon after that.
Yeah, but, in my mind, she ate it, but I could be wrong. Somebody watch the episode real quick and let us know.
Right. wait.
But there's there's another line here where she says, "Good thing I have friends," when she's talking about the blaster, and Fennec says, "Well, aren't you lucky?" And this is now the third time. I don't know if there's something here, but she's third time they've said, they've referred to her as lucky. Either she's done it, she said it herself, and now you've got Fennec Shan saying it. So I don't know. Again, I've got a lot of cockamamie theories, and one of them I think was that she's got some kind of a luck power of some sort or ability. Maybe it is just the Force, but it's just weird that that's now the third time they've made a comment. So
right, and of course, Omega has a great idea of saying, you're on your own. You should join us, join my friends. And
sure.
Fennec has a very peculiar answer. That's the best, offer she's had in a long time, which started to really make me curious of whether or not Fennec I'm assuming she knew about the Bad Batch and maybe who they were, but I wasn't sure how much she actually intended to take them on. I kind of still expected that she was heading back to the ship because they weren't going to go look for her friends. She said, well, this way. And she started leading her. So presumably just trying to get her off the planet and she could care about the rest of the clones was kind of my initial impression. But of course, Hunter finds them quite quickly right after that moment.
Yeah, he steps in. He's like immediately telling her to step away. And I don't know I don't know what led him to go so like if somebody, my kid walks away and I see somebody walking away with a child, I'm going to be concerned, but I know I've found a child that's lost and I'm like, okay, let's go get you somewhere, right? Let's take you to the store manager or let's go find a police officer, right? And you walk with the child. And maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe the best thing is just to stay there with the child. I don't know what the right thing is to do, but I will say that in real life moments like that, I wouldn't expect somebody to come at me with threatening with a dagger behind their back, ready to kill me.
Right.
But maybe he doesn't know any better, right? It's not like this. He's been at this whole father thing for a long time. So,
right. And I think some of it, he does know that she is a target of some sort, right? We established at the end of last week that they definitely want her for something. They don't really know what, and there's something special about her. And so he's going to be overprotective, and we've seen him be overprotective, and the corners are getting rounded a little bit on how he approaches that. I think Fennec also, she had, a pretty stern look as soon as she saw him, she got real hard faced and started reaching for her blaster almost immediately as well.
Yeah. Maybe it was the eyes.
Yeah. So I think Hunter may have recognized that pretty quickly. And again, I think he's just assuming anybody that's there for her is now, or anybody that's with her is a threat. And so I think to your point earlier, maybe he's just that overprotective, thinking that everyone's out to get her at this point. But it remains to be seen just how much that fear is justified. Of course, we all know it's totally justified, and they're finally getting a taste for that here. And by the end of the episode, they've kind of made some conclusions about what Fennec Shan really was.
Yeah. This may sound trivial too, but I did love the sound of her blaster. I don't know what they did to the way it sounds, but when she fired it definitely had a very unique sound. So,
oh man, and during the
sound team on that one,
during the fight, man, the animation and the scene, when he knocks her blaster to the side and it frays the wood in the crates and stuff, man, that was fantastic. I just went and watched that scene 6 or 7 times, no joke. I literally I just went back and forth watching it. It was just a really great fight sequence, and her twirling the knife and everything else, and kind of a bit to a stalemate at one point until he starts to just exert physical strength over her, and she's got a really hard helmet though, and so she's scrappy.
Yeah,
just headbutts him and knocks him out, and so and Omega starts running off though.
Yeah, and I think this is about the time the police show up, right? And so she books it out of there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to flip back over now to the market, and from here on out, we'll just kind of stick to the story because it jumps back and forth a few times. But so Wrecker, he rips out that signature key, which is flashing very boldly, so we all know what it looks like. And then Tech says he's going to work on scrambling that.
Isn't it delicate though? Why would you just rip it out?
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like maybe they don't have the right tools, and so they just have to exert brute force, and what they called in the big meathead. So, but they get the distress call from Hunter. He's freaking out about it, and then Wrecker goes into Big Brother mode immediately. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Who put ready to bash heads in because she's threatened here." Mm-hmm. And then Tech says he's going to go ahead and take off. So Wrecker goes after Omega, and Tech heads out to go jack into the camera system to see if maybe he can find out where they are in the city, which I thought was cool. And by the way, those cameras, I love that they showed them, and they were the cameras from
New
episode
Hope.
4. Yeah, I've always liked that look, and that scene where they're blowing them up and in the detention center. I just love all the explosions and seeing the different ones. And as a kid, I love that. So I don't know. Again, callback, shout out to whoever decided to put the cameras in like that. Okay, and then there's the so the ship needs to be put together, and he's going in, and this is where Echo tells the droids that, let's get them together, puts a droid team together to go out and go repair the ship, because they make a comment that there's no way the ship's going to be able to take off here. A little bit later, she says it's not going to be able to take off without, a team or something. So Omega's on the run. We're getting into all the action sequences, which I thought were great. Like there was really good moments, great cinematography, how they kind of choreographed all the fight. I thought was really great. We can get into specific moments here, but I know you mentioned earlier, but was probably worth mentioning again. What do you think of the fight sequences here?
I thought they were great. I mean, especially, I wasn't really sure what to expect on the chase scene, because chase scenes usually don't have a lot of, I don't know, anything new to them really, but this one was really good. I mean, it was actually, Omega, they're doing some things to make life difficult for Fennec and help out Hunter. I mean, even when she starts attacking Hunter the very first time in the alley, I mean, Omega's there yanking on her arm and pulling, trying to do what she can to protect him as well, which I thought was, really good. And she's not afraid to get involved, which I like about Omega. And, but I thought overall the fight scene was really good. I mean, it was a give and take, back and forth type of battle. We got to see the ruthlessness of Fennec. I mean, she tosses one guy out of his own speeder, and then she shot again, we were talking about the violence last week. She shot a cop right through the windshield, right into his chest, and then he catches the other one, and they both blow up and presumably don't survive. And man, it's a tough world out there.
Yeah, I mean, and we well, hold on, let's come back to that, because I just want to talk about the wrecker piece, because at some point, Omega goes down into the maintenance area. She comes out, she's sitting there dangling, and that's when Hunter swoops in, no pun intended. But there is that moment where she fights Wrecker, and I've seen a lot of people really upset by the fact that she took out Wrecker as quickly as she did, because it really was kind of like a Obi-Wan Darth Maul moment, right? It was leading up, you're thinking, oh man, this is going to be good. You've got Wrecker in a tunnel. There's really no way for them either one to escape unless they run back the other way. And so you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a big showdown. And within half a second, she's taking him out, and he's laid out on the floor. And there was a lot of people that are like, wait a second, how could she have done that to Wrecker, who's got superhuman strength and all that? But I don't think you're giving Fennec Shand enough credit, right? We know she's an assassin, or at least she's an assassin by the time we get to Mandalorian, but we don't know what her background is. We don't know how skilled she is, and we do now. I mean, if she was able to take out Wrecker, then that's how good she is, right? And what she ended up doing was redirecting his energy, which is kind of easy to do, right? If you've got somebody that's wielding a heavy fist and throwing their body weight around, it doesn't take a lot to shift all of that. Not to get into the techniques of it all, but it doesn't take much to shift somebody's momentum and weight, especially if they're coming in and they're not maybe using a lot of finesse, and they're just using a lot of brute strength, which is what Wrecker does. And you got to think about this too. Like the other thing I was going to say is Wrecker and all the clones, really, what are they used to fighting? They're used to fighting droids, right? They've been, for all we know, even when they're practice simulators, they've been fighting droids. So fighting against a human is completely different. And so you got to think there's probably a piece in there where they have to adjust, and they're not as proficient, they're not as skilled or as adept at fighting humans, rather than clankers who probably don't move as fast, right? He was not expecting it. So I think all of that plays into it. So kind of take that into consideration as you're watching that scene, and hopefully that takes the sting out of it a little bit more.
Well, right. And, we've established Wrecker's a bit of a meathead, and he probably saw a woman and was like, okay, well, it's, head smashing time. We're just going to go and take care of this. And Fennec, I mean, she's a slight woman, so she has to be more cunning and more tactical because she's not going to win a brute strength on strength, fight. And she knows that. And so I'm with you. She's adapted at, maneuvering and doing things in a certain way to make sure that she doesn't lose an advantage, and she knew she probably had kind of one crack at that to try to take him by surprise. And, again, smash his head into something else this episode. This poor guy is going to have a bit of a headache here well, I guess Steffi just said the same thing. But But yeah, skills over bronze. That's what I'm saying. It's not unexpected. I mean, and again, she's used to being quiet, and again, she, like you said, she's a bit more of an assassin by the time we meet her, several years later. But I didn't have a problem with this really whatsoever, especially with Wrecker's overconfidence. He just kind of went in like he was just gonna, bully and bash, and
Yeah.
I mean,
One shot kill kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. It's really the other way around.
Yep. There's okay, so the droids end up going and they get there, they start, Echo puts them to work on the ship and getting that repaired ASAP so they can get out of there. And this is where Omega comes out of the tower. I think Fennec shoots the door, if I recall correctly, and that kind of throws her back, leaves her kind of dangling there from that tower. And that's when Hunter steals that swoop. And I don't know, there's things they did in this episode that were kind of like maybe not good guy type things, right? Stealing the speeder. There's more. We'll come to that here in a little bit. But anyways, he ends up flying up there, and just before she falls, we have a moment where Fennec saves her, and she says, "You can thank me later," right? And then later on, and then she ends up dropping her and says, "Tuck and roll, kid." And so she doesn't seem like, I mean, I'm sure the bounty was to bring her in alive, right. And so she's going to do whatever she can, but I don't know. There's moments in here in this episode, and again, I'm sorry, but we'll save some. I want to save some of this conversation for the Patreon stuff. There are moments in here where they at least paint her to be a more complex character than even than we saw earlier on in the episode. Like, I question her motives, and I question the way she's going about trying to capture her, and some of the things that she's doing and saying to Omega, which I think speak to some of those complexities a little bit.
Yeah, and I think some of it is she's smart. I mean, she's going to, what is the easiest way to get someone to come with you is to want to come with you, right? And to not give them a reason to fear you, and not give you a reason to kick and scream and make a bunch of noise. So, I mean, some of it is just
self-preservation.
Yeah, well, I mean, just make it easy on yourself and make it easy on the kid. If they want to be there, then they have no reason to scream or make a scene. And I think she's just playing that up. And I think that's her best strategy, I think, at least to start. I mean, until you can't help but make some noise with blasters and speeders and blowing things up. That's always your first chance. Can you get in and out quickly and quietly? Well, let's do that then. That's what the Bad Batch is trying to do, rather unsuccessfully, continuously. But
yeah, right. That's kind of their MO.
Right.
So Wrecker, he wakes up. They tell him that, hey, Hunter's already gotten, is on working, saving Omega, get back to the ship. So he does that. And then this is where Omega releases the cargo. So, I mean, again, she's not like this damsel in distress. I mean, she's actively fighting Fennec at one point. I think she kind of pulls the blaster down at one point when she's trying to shoot Hunter. She knows that she releases the cargo to send Fennec off, which then forces her to kind of jump off that and land on that other ship. She loses her blaster. So she
landed right on her head and neck too. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah. She did not. She took a beating in this episode, especially at the very end. I mean, we even catch her limping.
Yeah, that was a great shot.
Which is great because, I mean, we've talked about that enough times on any one of these shows, especially like The Mandalorian and the beating that he took, and he just seemed to be like, no problem, right? At least here we're seeing some vulnerability. Maybe they heard those episodes when we talked about that, and
they probably did.
Dave Filoni said we need to make sure that she's limping in this one for Jonesy and Albert.
Yep,
maybe,
definitely.
Okay, and then this is where we get the hip hop Aqualish.
This was gold,
which was perfect. Like, it was one of the best moments in all of Star Wars. I'm sorry, I'm not being dramatic, but I say that because his colors were the colors of the original Walrus Man figure, which I thought was perfect because it was like orange and blue, right? I don't have the action. I should have pulled it out. But just the fact that he was dressed like that, which I thought was great. But then, it's kind of cliche to have somebody sitting in the car or listen. I mean, we all have pulled up, and maybe you're that person, but pulled up to a red light, and there's somebody that's just in their own world. Music's blaring, it's drowning out everything that you can do. Your teeth and your fillings are rattling, right? But it's nice to know that this person exists in Star Wars as well. So It was a cool little moment. They didn't have to do it, but it certainly, lightened the moment there a little bit. So
it was and the timing was perfect. You got this really intense scene, and then to just have that stark contrast of just someone completely oblivious.
Yep,
it's just
in their moment.
Oh, it was fantastic. And they've had so many of these throughout the series already that I just hope that they continue to be able to work some of these things in, because they're just so much fun to have it. and like you said, it's kind of real life. We can relate to some of this stuff, and some of our favorite action movies have those types of moments. So it's nothing new, but they're great contrast for a really intense scene.
Yeah. And then Tuan said it was a great air traffic scene. And this is where I would agree, because this is where it really starts to pick up, because this is where the police kind of come in and they give chase. Fennec then slams the face of that civilian and throws him out, which I thought was kind of brutal, right? Because that guy didn't survive. I mean, they're pretty high up in the air at this point. Mm-hmm. And then she's about ready to ram Hunter with her airspeeder.
I think she actually
she does. She bumps him. Yeah, that's right. No, she bumps him, and you can see him kind of get shot over the side there. But I mean, that wasn't she was trying to kill him, I guess. I mean,
I don't know how he hung on.
There's no way to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I think any other normal person probably would have been thrown from the speeder.
Mm-hmm. That's when she turns around. The cops kind of pull up behind her. She takes that shot, kills one of the cops, who then does the whole stormtrooper thing where they ran into each other with speeder bikes, and they both die. But again, this speaks to her. We'll talk about. We can talk about this, I guess. We don't know what Fennec Shand is like right now, right? I mean, she's probably a very different person. Do we see elements of her character later on? Yes. Are there other elements in her? Absolutely. But, she's going to do whatever she needs to do to survive. I mean, she's already wanted for what she's done. So she's going to have to kill some people, right? This is all breaking the eggs.
Yeah, I mean, this is
the omelet thing.
This is part of the job description that she's chosen to do with this lifestyle. So whether it's out of necessity or not, it is what it is now. So you do what has to be done.
Yeah. And I just wonder if maybe, I think a lot of people too are kind of, and maybe we shouldn't be at this point, but we've seen more real violence in this series than we have typically than the Clone Wars or even the Mandalorian, right? To some extent, some of that stuff we've not seen such bold. Well, no, Mandalorian we definitely have. We've seen some of this in Mandalorian, but the fact that it's animated and on Disney Plus, I think, is maybe what's kind of having people scratch their heads a little bit, or maybe doing a double take on some of this stuff. But it's good. I mean, I think it's I think it's been fine.
Clone Wars has had,
what's the rating on this? Is it 13?
I think it's just PG. But Clone Wars had a lot of it too, but it seemed to be a bit more stretched. I think it was been different places, but I mean, it was clearly people shooting guns and stuff. But again, when you're attacking droids, it feels very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Well, and then now I was just thinking about there are a number of people that get impaled on lightsabers pretty violently in the Clone Wars. So maybe we're not thinking through all of that as clearly as we should be. Okay, so at this point, this is where Hunter then he takes out the engines, which I thought would have kind of crippled the ship, but it didn't. So I don't know how it stayed afloat. It did certainly look like he blew them out. Yeah. And that's when he kind of picks up Omega, then slams the brakes, does the whole Top Gun fly right by you kind of thing. Yep. And then hurls the detonator out there that ends up blowing up the ship that she's on. And that's when she lands. And I know, right? What would he have done at that point? So
I know.
The Force works in mysterious ways. And then, this is where she lands and we see her. Really cool action shot, right? It's always cool when stuff blows up behind you or in front of you and you're not looking at it. So we had that moment, which is, we got the background there for that today, which we saw in the trailer. I would say this, when the trailer came out, there were a lot of things that we speculated. I think we got most of it right, at least in the scene, but not that it was that difficult to kind of piece together.
Yeah. Several scenes from the original trailer were in this episode alone. Of course, Hunter throwing the detonator and of course the explosion behind Fennec there. But very reminiscent, a bit of Attack of the Clones type of speeder fight. Mm-hmm. Obviously a lot more explosions and whatnot. It was not just a chase scene. Yeah, a lot more killing. I mean, it was more violent where it was just a chase before, but still very reminiscent of some of that. And it really fits well in that in this timeline as well. It's really nicely done. But and I like that when her ship explodes and she while she does the tuck and roll thing and she gets up, she's clearly limping and clearly taking a bit of a beating throughout this fight, right? And I like that she didn't come in unscathed, through all of it.
Yeah, Mando, we're looking at you.
Right.
Although he did take a beating in that the first season at the very end there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
spray some back on it, you'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, I almost spoiled something for High Republic. Whew, I just blurred out something. Okay. Where are we? Oh, so Wrecker then realizes he's missed all the action, right? And so now this is the second time where he's been out of commission and didn't do that. So I don't know if there's a reoccurring theme here or not. Maybe it's just coincidental. I guess we'll find out here soon enough. The droids repair the ship, and the Bad Batch get off Pantor. So they leave, and this is where Hunter says that she was likely a bounty hunter. They were talking about her. Tech says that she's that Omega is the target. So they clearly are putting two and two together here, and saying that Omega is who they were after. No one questions why. They just say we need to find out who this person was. Right? They're asking the who, but not the why. And I think the why is probably more important to me. But I think you could argue that if you find out who the who is, then you can get to the why. But I'm just going to ask straight up, like, who is it? Is it, well, I got my theories, but who is it? Who hired her to go after Omega?
That's a good question, actually, with the whole bounty hunter thing, because Omega didn't know what a bounty hunter was, which I thought was interesting, given that she grew up on Camino. Mm-hmm. So do they not
He's
tell
just a businessman trying to make his way through the galaxy, man.
That's right. Yeah, he's just an honest man. Yeah.
Honest man, sorry.
I forgot. Yeah, he's not a bounty hunter at all. Man, you've shaken my world to the core now. Yeah, it's a good question, because it could be, first of all, you would think if it was, you could kind of go through the list, right? If you think it was the Kaminoans, why would they not say, I mean, I don't know, do they really need to fight the Bad Batch, or why wouldn't they try to work with them, I guess, rather than fight them? So some of that I kind of don't know that it's the Kaminoans. There we go. Kaminoans. Good Lord. I'm usually the one that gets this right. Okay. Yeah. And so we had some speculation though in Discord, and I guess we can share some of that speculation. I'm sorry, I don't remember who all had these, because I think some people were on the same page, but some people wanted to throw out that it may have been Palpatine or Tarkin or some of these others. But I think at this point, we don't necessarily have any idea that they know the importance of Omega, right? In fact, we know for a fact that they don't know. Well, Palpatine, we don't know anything for a fact, of course, but it doesn't seem like anybody has really any kind of idea of her importance quite yet. And they would be more of taking out the Bad Batch than getting after Omega. So the Kaminoans kind of seem like the best choice right now. But why they would need to have conflict with the Bad Batch, maybe they're just anticipating, or they just don't care. I mean, they're always very nonchalant about this stuff anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So what's your speculation?
Yeah, well, I mean, they may see. So the Kaminoans are kind of like the more obvious. In fact, they're almost too obvious, because if they weren't, if it's not them, or let's say if it is them, we all would expect it. So why wouldn't they show them? Why wouldn't they cut over and say, have, let's say, talking to her, or Lama Su, or whoever it is that's kind of behind it, and say, did you find it? No, she got away, right? They didn't do any of that. And so either they're playing a mind game on us, and they're just messing with us, and it really truly is them, or it's somebody else. Who that is, it's probably anybody's guess at this point. I mean, I think there's certainly arguments to be made for a lot of characters that are out there. Palpatine, the cloning, and all that. There's a ton of theories about whether or not this is the first experiment that eventually leads into Grogu, and there may be something there. Who knows? Maybe it is the what's his name, the client, or something along those lines. We just don't know enough about it yet at this point. But I would say that if it's not the Kaminoans, or if it is the Kaminoans, why did they make it such a big secret and not show them, not even have a voice? We only heard her side, and we only saw her side the entire time they had that conversation.
And again, why don't they, I mean, they don't have to speak directly, but they could send encrypted messages and talk to Clone Force 99 and tell them, hey, here's what we think we need to do, and here's these things. But again, the Kaminoans don't work that way either. Mm-hmm. You have our property. We want to get back our property. This other property, we don't care about you defects. We want this defect instead. So it's a bit interesting of how this is shaking out. But I think it's also got to be a really short list, because who knows the value of Omega at this point, unless they're starting to pick up like cross-comm chatter and know that something's out there. But she already had a picture of her and everything. So there's seems to be a really short
somebody list. Somebody that has some inside knowledge about who she is and what she what she's about.
So what do you think about? What do you think about Fennec still tossing the guy credit at the very end?
Again, that's not what I was expecting, right? I mean, I think they were kind of playing that scene up as though he was going to get what was coming to him, right? For letting them escape. But I mean, to his defense, I think what was he asleep or whatever it was? I mean,
yeah, what's he going to do?
He's just a, I don't know. He didn't seem like a character, but I would have expected her to do like a Boba Fett or put him down, and she didn't. In fact, she said something very different, right? Target got away. Call me. Hey, yeah, no worries, no big deal. Just call me if you see him again, kind of thing.
And these things make a lot more sense to me, though. It's you have an informant that's already called you once, and you're showing good faith by still paying them. They're definitely going to call you that second time, right? So it just seems to make a lot of sense. If you want to grow your information network, and she's still presumably a bit young too, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if this is just her growing her network as well, and kind of getting that good faith of sorts in a profession of really not a lot of good faith.
Right.
But again, you could probably tie some things to what we see in with Boba Fett too, and how she got tied to him at some point, and start to make connections here about just her general character of sorts, even though she is a bounty hunter.
Yeah, I will find out. I mean, there's this episode kind of ends in the only lead that we have in terms of where they're going next is the fact that he mentions earlier on that Idaflor is the planet, but beyond that, I mean, it can kind of go anywhere at this point.
Right. Well, I mean, so they got the credits, right? But they still didn't get the fuel or the food. So we're still short on supplies, right? And we're still short on fuel. So I don't know if we're going directly to this planet next, or we've got to make another pit stop to at least fuel up, which again,
to buy fuel.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, they said they can't make it that far. So is that right? Or is it that they were just being tracked?
No,
they didn't have enough fuel. Yeah.
They didn't have enough fuel. Right. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Maybe they are going to use the credits and they've got to make a pit stop. Again, no pun intended, but maybe they're going to stop somewhere, buy the gas, and we get that whole experience. And eventually that goes to Idaflor. But I don't know. I'm just waiting for Rex, I guess, at this point, because I think when Rex shows up, I hope they're not saving him for the halfway point,
the
episode
mid-season
12 or something. Yeah. Jeez, or episode 8, it would be the midpoint.
Yeah.
I hope we get him soon, because I think we're going to get a lot more answers once he shows up.
Yeah, of course.
On a lot of stuff.
These episodes are flying by, though, too. So even if they did with the mid-season kind of cliffhanger type of thing.
Yeah.
Are we getting all 16 of these at the same time, or is there a break?
As far as I know, there's no break.
No break, right?
I've seen the schedule for the next, up until 9 or 10, I think. Not officially, but I've seen the dates, and the dates are successive. So this just keeps going. They're not pulling back and saying, "Oh, we're going to, be back in a couple months," kind of thing. So
it'd be really great if we could get
fingers crossed.
it'd be great if we can get all the titles. It'd make these title cards a lot easier to make. Rather than waiting till Friday every time.
I don't think we're going to get that. So,
your brother, Liquid Schwartz.
Yeah, always with this baseball reference. No, that's actually a pretty good one. Okay, well, that's kind of it. I mean, that's how the episode ends, and that's how this episode's going to end. So, I mean, it was, again, there were probably slower moments for some people, I think, and I don't want to say that not lost on me. But again, for the most part, I thought the better part of this episode was spent on Fennec Shand, if you think about it, right? And her interaction and just seeing her. I mean, she's right out of the gate. We see her in this episode. So based on that alone, I would say, there's a lot here. And we know that she's going to be back, right? I mean, this is a character that's not going away. I was worried that it was going to be a one and done kind of thing, but no, it looks like you're going to have kind of what you mentioned earlier. You're going to have this dynamic of them being on the run from just the galaxy or the galactic empire at large, right? Whether that's Rampart or Tarkin or whoever else, the clones, that piece is going on. That's one front. And then on another front, you've got Fennec Shand looking to take Omega specifically. So they're battling that. And then on top of all of that, you've got just, again, the lifestyle that's changing and them being having to adapt to a lot of different things here. And I think once Rex comes in, I think that is going to change some things, because Rex opens up the gateway to a lot of other things. I mean, who's to say that we don't see somebody like, Ahsoka at some point, or, maybe she's dropping in. There's a lot of potential here because we're in a period of time that we just don't know enough about. And we talk about the time after the Empire's fallen. That was kind of a big gaping hole in terms of what we had around knowledge. But we've gotten a lot of that from The Mandalorian. We've got some shows coming up that are going to fill in the gaps there. But if you think about it, this is a period of time where we just don't have a whole lot up until we get to Rebels, right? And there's some time still in between there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and
Crosshair.
I was about to say that with the Empire, you've also got the Crosshair component to that too.
Yeah.
And even with Fennec Shan, you've got the kind of the Camino aspect of it too, the Kaminoans and just whatever is kind of lurking in the background there. So you've got kind of, I think you summarized it correctly. You have two kind of bigger areas right now, but you've got different components of each one though that are going to play, and it could be very important pieces of each one of those aspects and those antagonists.
Right. Thanks, Juan. Thank you, Jonesy. I forgot. Wasn't even thinking. But yeah, that's exactly.
Well, but you didn't hear anything about him on this episode, so it's really interesting how quickly you could just kind of put them straight out of mind. So,
yeah. Well, and it happened in Rebels. It happened in Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. It happens in all the series. It's just, but it is weird, especially since we were so Crosshair heavy. And that the way that ended was like, whoa, right? Big cliffhanger moment. And then we broke away. In novels, this happens a lot too. Like you're reading a particular there's like 2-3 chapters right in a row, all the same things going on. Then the author leaves you hanging for the next like 4 chapters, and you just want to go back to that storyline, but you're just going to have to wait it out, right? So,
well, hell, this was New Jedi Order books, like between books where you'd have to wait.
Oh, yeah, wait.
You'd have to wait at least 1, maybe even 2 books before you got back to the actual part you were interested in, right? It was the part of what was so frustrating about New Jedi Order sometimes.
I always wondered if that was
series was.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just thinking, I used to think, like, is it because the authors intended it this way, or was it because they just didn't have it all planned out and they were just laying stuff down and someone would pick it up hopefully in another book or 2? Yeah,
my guess is they were probably doing a lot of it simultaneously or around the same time, and they were just given kind of their aspect of the story or their characters, and they didn't want to step on toes, and they were probably carving it out a bit because they would kind of come in waves. But no, I thought this was a really good episode. I didn't find it as filler or anything like that. I thought it was entertaining, a good, like John said, I'll keep borrowing his words, good pacing, good timing, and just entertaining episode. And I think we're all in agreement that Fennec Shan was really the highlight of this episode, and really looking forward to what she comes in and what she does next, because I'm with you. I think she's got to at least be in one more episode, if not more. And I'm totally cool with that, with her being, like one of the more primary antagonists throughout the rest of the season, if that's necessary, depending on what they've decided to do.
Cool. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, we'll try to get this one out to Patreon users. It'll be out tomorrow, believe it or not. I'm going to work on that tonight. And then we'll get the full episode out, I think, probably Tuesday for the public release. And then we've got the Patreon stuff that we're going to do here in just a little bit. So,
and before we go, our friends over at silverlegcreative.org, I'm wearing the May the 4th be with y'all shirt. They've still got some left over in their shop. So silverlegcreative.org, and just hit the little shop button for a donation. You can get the shirt or some posters or other shirts they've had in the past. This is Mandalorian and Grogu inspired. It's fantastic. Every time we wear it out in public or something, people always make a comment about it and absolutely love it. So if you want to support the cultural arts in Austin, which I highly recommend you do anytime you can. Yeah, thank you all for putting that on the screen. Definitely go and support Stephanie and Johnny, their organization there. It's nonprofit, so they're not making money off of this, but it helps support their ability to do more things in the future. And of course, they're huge Star Wars fans, just like the rest of us. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of put money into our own enthusiasm for May the 4th and whatever else these guys are some of the most creative people. I've seen. They have so much energy. They're a hoot to be around. So great people to go to support. So silverlegcreative.org. Wow. Every time I hear you say it, I think you said lake because you're from Michigan. And so you pronounce your E's with A's. Yeah.
Leg.
Yeah. But anyway,
Silver Leg.
So check out the live stream. I've got the shirt on. Albert wore it, of course, on May the 4th. We wore this May the 4th, and he wore it a few weeks ago as well. So check them out. They're awesome.
I wear it to bed every night. No, I'm kidding. I don't, but I wear it a lot.
I'm going to keep all my comments to myself.
Okay, and with that, we're going to end this train wreck of the show. We'll see you guys next week for episode 5, and look forward to more content here coming up.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good fun stuff. But I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what. So that's your disclaimer.